I was in a dollar store trying to check out but delayed because Karen was busy complaining to the cashier about the quality of the products in the dollar store. To which I said, "Karen, if you don't like the quality here, then go somewhere more upscale like Walmart, or if you got the budget, Target." She then asked for a manager, cause that's what Karens do. Manager came and for the next solid 2 minutes she was complaining to the manager about how her staff was very rude and suggested she should shop at Walmart or Target, how insane it is to hire staff that promotes the competition. The cashier is smirking, I'm smiling from ear to ear. Karen finishes off with, "If I was you I'd fire such an employee." To which the manager said, "Which employee said that?" To which Karen and the cashier all pointed at me, they're standing with my Coke and a bag of chips. To which the manager goes, "Mrs., he's not an employee." To which Karen goes, "Then why is he here?" Manager looks at me and looks at her and goes, "Buying stuff." My BFF and I were sitting in English Lit. She had an orange on her desk. This boy took it and refused to give it back. He wasn't being a bully or anything, but kind of teasing, and then he ate it in front of us while he was laughing. So we told him he shouldn't have eaten it. Boy, why not? Friend, because it was in my locker for 2 weeks. I was going to throw it away after class. Me, yeah, plus she dropped it in the floor and we were kicking it around. Friend, and then I stabbed it with my pencil. Me, I think part of the lead broke off in it. I hope you don't get lead poisoning. He accused us of lying and we just shrugged and ignored him for the rest of the class. The next day he came to class. He didn't look too good. Said he was up that night puking. We told him we were just kidding. That none of what we said happened. Poor guy. Didn't know what to believe at that point. Edit, the orange was fresh and we didn't mess with it. We only messed with his mind. It was posted here the other day that the GSK was expected to plead guilty to 13 murders and kidnapping charges. Today, Joseph James DeAngelo Jr., 74, pleaded guilty to 26 charges. DeAngelo was charged with 13 counts of murder, with additional special circumstances, as well as 13 counts of kidnapping for robbery in 6 counties, including Contra Costa County in the Bay Area. Investigators believe he was responsible for more than 60 rapes, including some in Santa Clara and Alameda counties as well, but the statute of limitations expired on those crimes. This plea deal will spare him of the death penalty, but due to his age and California Governor Gavin Newsom's halt on executions, it was unlikely that DeAngelo would have realistically faced the death penalty. No paywall / This happened when I was about 14 or so in the early 2000s. I was looking at my parents' movie shelf of VHS to try and find a good movie to watch. I think I grabbed Beetlejuice. I was down on my hands and knees looking at the bottom of the shelf. For whatever reason my sister came walking by while wrapped in a blanket. She stopped to look at me. I guess you could say she was never one to miss a chance to laugh at someone else's expense. Then out of the corner of my eye I saw her leg raised to kick my bum. If she had, it'd have sent my face right into the shelf. But I guess my reflexes were too quick, because I spun around and grabbed her foot as soon as her leg swung at me. This made her lose balance and fall down onto the floor. She got up and our parents started laughing at her. They'd seen the whole thing. My sister looked completely humiliated and ran to her room like a brat and didn't come out for hours. But I was laughing about what happened for days. TLDR, sister tried to kick me while I was bent over, got humiliated when I made her fall over instead. One of Kavina the nanny's jobs was to feed our baby a bottle, 2 times a day. She was supposed to take breast milk from the refrigerator and measure 3 ounces for each feeding. We noticed after a few days that there were always 4 dirty bottles in the sink. We didn't understand, because she confirmed she was only feeding our baby twice a day at the times we asked. And it wasn't just curiosity, it took some time for us to clean and sterilize the used bottles every evening. After it happened again we asked her to show us exactly what she was doing. As a bit of backstory, when my wife showed Kavina how to prepare a bottle, she had just pumped some breast milk into a storage bag, and she used the kitchen scale to measure how many ounces she had pumped. Since the markings on the pumping bags aren't very accurate, she first zeroed the scale using an empty pumping bag. So when we asked Kavina to show us how she was preparing a bottle, we watched her take breast milk out of the fridge and then use the kitchen scale to measure 3 ounces. Just like she had seen us do, she used a clean bottle to zero the scale. Then she put the clean bottle in the sink. So back when I first joined the Marines I got sent to work with the military police. I was only 20, new on base, knew nobody, and couldn't go to the bars. There was nothing around to do basically but go to a strip club. So one day while I was training to work as an MP for a while, we had to get sprayed with OC, basically military grade pepper spray. After we are sprayed we have to go through a martial arts course and detain people. The point is so that if we accidentally get sprayed we will know the feeling and be able to still control the situation. Basically this is the worst feeling in the world. It's like snorting salt, squeezing lemon in your eyes, putting gas on your face, and then lighting it on fire, but still somehow worse. Anyways, I did the training and at the end they offer you a hose to wash it off. It was terrible because it is an oil-based spray, so it actually reactivates with water. So that sucked, and eventually it dries and I go to my barracks. A few hours later I'm bored. No movies on, nothing to do. It was Friday night. So I figured I'd head down to the strip club. It was packed. So I decided I would start it off fun and walked up to the stage. I put it all down in front of everyone sitting there and then 5 ones in front of me. The girl dancing was a bit thick and it was her second song, so she had a bit of a shine to her. Anyways, she came crawling over on her knees, grabs my head, and nearly gives me a concussion between her huge tits. I'm happy and she moves down the line. Well, about 3 dudes down all of a sudden my face feels hot. Like I'm thinking maybe the light is on my face and it's warm, but it just keeps getting hotter. Then I see the guy next to me rubbing his eyes. Then the stripper is on stage on her knees still and just starts slapping and dragging her hands across her chest like she is trying to smother a fire. Then the other guy's eyes start burning. Meanwhile I'm trying to keep a straight face while my face is on fire. I just made a move to the bathroom and left and went home. I was young and forgot that water would reactivate it. I also didn't understand second-hand contamination. Due to COVID, we are not currently able to go into a guest room while they are in it. Especially a family of 4. Guest calls down and stays their TV is not working. I do my best to troubleshoot the issue with them. If anyone has ever tried to troubleshoot a hotel TV, you know this is no easy feat. I explain that I cannot come into their room while they are all in there. I said I can come up and check it out while you go out to dinner if you'd like. They decline. They come back from dinner, stop down and get a new remote with fresh batteries. I explain, again, that I cannot come up while they are up there. I offer to run up real quick before they go up. Wearing a mask and gloves obviously. They decline. 2 minutes later they call down to say the TV still isn't working and they want me to come up. I explain again. For the 3rd time that I cannot come up unless the wait down the hall or in the lobby. They say okay, they will let me know and hang up. Haven't heard back from them yet. So frustrating, neutral face, stupid COVID. How do I bill Medicaid? Why did this reject? What does the message say? Refill too soon. How many mLs are in an insulin pen? I don't have enough in this bottle, what do I do? Is there another bottle of the same brand? Yes, so what do I do? Why is it that every time I type SIG codes, it changes to words? This is still rejecting. It's only 5 minutes later, it's still too soon. Can I substitute for another strength? How do I bill Medicaid? I thought you wrote it down? I did, but I'm not searching my notebook for it. I'm tired of filling, then go to drive. I hate drive, then go to counter. How do you bill Medicaid? Could you fix the RX you just typed? It's fine, I don't make mistakes. I noticed you put in for 10 milligrams when it's written for 20 milligrams. It doesn't make a difference. Stop telling me to fix my mistakes, this is why I don't work counter. Go back to fill. So my parents run a small pub along a walking trail which is situated within a national park. We also live on the property, which many people do not seem to understand or comprehend. So one day I was cutting the grass on one of our terraces, as we weren't busy and would allow us to seat more guests as the summer season was starting. Having returned the lawnmower to an outbuilding, I see an entire family had parked up and decided that our car park would serve as their toilet and bin. The father and son were casually urinating against our house when I walked out. Once the wife saw me, her face went pale, as I must have had an expression of pure anger. I asked them if they knew what a toilet looked like and if they had a medical condition to which they couldn't walk inside and use our toilets, which we are happy for non-customers to use as it's the only ones in a 10 kilometers radius, to which they relied no. I then asked them why they were peeing on my house and if I could come to theirs do the same, to which they said I was being aggressive and harassing. So I stood my ground and told them if they didn't leave I'd do the same to their car. They told me as it was in the woods they thought it was okay and didn't know anyone lived there. At what point is it okay to pee on people's businesses because you're too lazy to try find a toilet which was about 30 meters away? I'm a courtroom assistant in a Southeast Asian country. I'd rather not get much further than that on identifying information. We do both security and practical assistance like moving displays, escorting juries, and some ceremonial stuff as well. This was the sentencing of an evil flip on several high crime offenses, similar to what a capital offense may be in America. Here high crime is the level above criminal offense, or felony for the rest of the world. He stalked, kidnapped, raped, and murdered a locally famous and growing pop artist who was pregnant. He was charged with stalking, high crime kidnapping, high crime rape, high crime murder, high crime fetal homicide, and a bunch of other stuff. Evil Flip, as he will be referred to from here on out, was on suicide precautions as he made threats against his own life in prison, so he was in spiffy paper clothes. We were well into victim impact statements. The victim had a large family and there were something like 35 individuals addressing the court. We're something like 28 statements into it. Next up was Granddad. These are always really emotional, families are always really upset for good reason, but this 80-plus-old guy is the worst I can remember. He was crying, breathing heavily, shaking, the entire sentencing. He was called to make his statement, starts walking up, about past the counsel table. He then turns, tackles the attorneys and Evil Flip. He didn't get much in on the Evil Flip, maybe a kick and 2 punches before 15 of us pile up on him. He was taken into custody, and it quickly became apparent that Evil Flip got what was coming. Evil Flip is screaming and gagging for about 20 seconds, then he starts convulsing, came back in about 2 minutes choking/gagging, really bad. We put him on his side and get an ambulance on the way. The rest of the gallery was evacuated and court went into recess. By time the ambulance arrives he's not breathing, only twitching and has no pulse. They do CPR, take him out to the hospital. He was revived and died later that day. Coroner's report said his brainstem was damaged, his skull was broken, and brain herniated through break in his skull. The Granddad was interviewed by national police who have jurisdiction of courts. He said that he'd been planning that for days, he felt no remorse, said if he had time he would have killed the attorneys too. It also came out that the Granddad was in my country's mob back in the day, had 40 years in prison prior for drowning someone in petrol and lighting their corpse on fire. He was suspected but not confirmed to be involved in several other high-profile murders. He was charged with murder, conspiracy, contempt of court, and 2x simple battery for the attorneys. He was found not guilty of everything except contempt of court, to which he was originally sentenced to 4 years but it was reduced to terminal probation with home confinement due to his health. Cousin's story. From his perspective. This story took place 5 to 6 years ago, when I was more naive and antisocial. I surprisingly got a sessional job at a major grocery store. Alright, first day on the job I'm excited, I'm pumped up and I start at 3 a.m., oh god. I didn't have a driver license yet so I rode my bike which is an easy 15 minutes. One thing to note is, a hokey mask, a reflective jacket, and gloves. Anyways, as I finally arrive at work I notice 6 female co-workers, who were close to the entrance. I paid them no mind and begin to lock my bike. As I'm locking my bike, I notice they're looking at me scared and slowly creeping to the door. Me being the complete dum-dum I am, not noticing I still have my darn mask on, realize thinking oh, I haven't introduced myself yet. I take off my mask and say hi, I'm Mop, I'm a new seasonal worker. When they realized I do work here they laughed and explained they thought I was going to rob the store. What? We had a good laugh and I enjoyed the entire time I was there. I, female, work in the male-dominated industry of construction as an estimator and project manager. That's pretty much the background necessary. I am one of 2 estimators in my office. One day, a man walked in and I went to greet him as the office manager was out and the other estimator was on the phone. When I asked him how could I help him, he asked if he could speak to someone who knew what they were talking about. I tried not to be instantly irritated and explained to him that I was an estimator and could give him a price. He said this is rather complicated, so is there a guy here that will understand this? I had seen his drawings, and knew it was a rather easy job. Instead I told him Bob would be right with him and to have a seat. Told Bob he had a customer waiting. Bob informed me he'd be on the phone for at least another half hour. Sorry Bob, the customer has requested to wait for you. An hour goes by and Bob comes in my office as asked why I didn't help that guy because the job was so easy. I told him the story, and he said fair enough and walked out. Hi everyone. So I've seen a lot of negative stories due to corona, and I thought I'd share a small one with you that is a little wholesome. Two of my favorite guests came the other night and sat down at one of the tables which is closest to the sanitizer for guests. In our restaurant, every guest has to sanitize their hands before sitting down. So every time another guest came, I told them to do so before they sat down. Later that night I was behind the bar, making drinks, and one of the regulars passed to go to the bathroom. She stopped for a second and told me I was her hero of corona because I relentlessly tell everyone to sanitize their hands. It was such a small thing, but for me it was really important to hear that. It makes me feel appreciated, and that is so important at the moment. So to everyone, please know that there are a lot of people who will legitimately appreciate you, and know that working right now sucks sometimes. Have a great day, everyone. This story comes from the Na at my first hotel. A wedding block was staying at the hotel. They checked in okay and everything seemed fine. But the night of the wedding, the bride and groom got very drunk and started yelling at each other around 3 a.m. They wouldn't stop, so the police were called. It turns out the bride had an outstanding warrant for something minor, unpaid tickets or something like that, and she was taken to jail on her wedding night. The next day I was PM and management told me the whole story. A few stayovers who heard the noise from the night before asked what happened, and I just plainly said they were arrested. The guests thought we were hardcore there. On September 24, 1998 at around 5:30 p.m., Agnieszka Zemlewski was walking in a remote area of the reservoir just a few hundred yards from Old Mountain Road in Farmington, Connecticut. She was shot multiple times at close range and her killer was never caught. The area where she was murdered was along a small walking trail in an isolated part of a reservoir that is popular with the public in the Hartford metro area. Since day one, there has been a suspect, and this is the town's only unsolved homicide. Zemlewski was a native of Poland who moved to the United States as a young teenager. She was a 27-year-old college graduate who had a successful career. Her mother and sisters would suffer another horrible tragedy after her death when their father, husband, drowned a few years later. On June 28, Farmington police arrested 50-year-old Catherine Pearies for hindering prosecution and lying to police in connection with their investigation into the murder. Sources: Hartford Courant. I have heard countless stories from other retailers about how customers complain about so many things that are completely out of a retail associate's hands. When there is a return policy in place, we have to follow it. We don't choose to follow it. Customers get angry at us when we have to enforce certain rules. Especially now during COVID and the ongoing restrictions. I work at a retail store where the dressing rooms are closed. Customers complain on and on about it. Me: the dressing rooms are closed. Customer: so what are we supposed to do to check if something fits? Me: you purchase it. Try it on at home. Then return it for a refund if it doesn't fit. Customer: incessant complaining, yelling, rolling of eyes. I don't know why customers get mad at us for having to enforce rules. Get over yourselves. These are not normal times. I don't even want to be here to tell you that no, you can't try on clothes, and please, be a decent human being and put on a mask. More self-awareness, people. Please. And if you have a complaint, write to corporate. Please save your time, BC. I can't do anything about it. And we are just going to both get frustrated. So I'm a bit obsessive with my houseplants and I spend quite a bit of time caring for them. Today I was in a bit of a haze whilst going about my daily plant care activity, and I had to prune a damaged leaf from my large elephant ear plant. Now, in my defense, before I continue, I had recalled that elephant ears are edible. So I cut the leaf off and was pondering it when my bird brain goes, what leaf tastes like? So I gave the freshly cut end of the leaf a little lick. Oops. For those wondering, it didn't taste like anything at all. But a couple seconds afterward I noticed my mouth was tingling. Tingling turned to burning and then came a bit of swelling. A minute later my whole tongue feels like a sunburnt pop rock. My lips and throat start to feel the same. It feels like what I think chewing up a lit light bulb might feel like. Or maybe like if you had a tiny thunderstorm in your mouth. By this point I realize the mistake I've made and I've already started for the kitchen. The oxalate crystals in the plant sap have dug into many parts of the face hole in question and need to be wiped out of my mouth. Then the microscopic wounds can be soothed with milk. So I lick a clean dish rag profusely, then pound a cup of milk. My throat, which had started to feel like it was closing, relaxed, which gave me a literal sigh of relief. As I start to recover, my foolish self sits down on the couch to Google WTF just happened to me, and it all becomes clear again. The haze lifts as I am informed that the leaves are not the edible part of the plant and the roots need to be cooked before it's edible at all. In hindsight, this info feels like something I should have known. Here we are hours later. My mouth is no longer swelling or burning. The very tip of my tongue feels like I burned it a bit on hot liquid. But other than that and my wounded ego, I'm fine. I feel incredibly stupid, but I got to learn some cool facts about oxalate, elephant ear recipes, and what a tiny star exploding in your mouth feels like. Some free wisdom to houseplant collectors and other dimwits out there. 1. Don't lick plants unless you know for sure whether you should lick it or not. 2. Oxalate, the main offender in the sap, which can be found in rhubarb and many other foods in small doses, can kill pets and small children, so be careful with your leafy friend placement and supervise children and pets around them. 3. Cook your elephant ear beforehand if you intend to eat it. 4. If you're gonna eat something dumb, you better know the local poison control number or have easy access to Google. DL, Doctor, I licked the end of a freshly cut leaf because I had falsely recalled that it was edible and ended up giving myself a burn on my tongue. I learned my lesson. I woke up this morning and didn't feel great, not my usual perky self. Decided to go for a walk after lunch and despite some tummy rumblings, hopped in the car and drove to the woods near the house. After about a mile the rumblings grew bigger and louder and I just knew something had to give. Ended up having to squat and spew forth some hot lava from my nether regions. Had nothing else with me but remember reading on another post about sacrificing a sock, so I did just that. Curious flies congregated within seconds. DLDR, went for a walk earlier to get some air, even though I wasn't feeling great. Within minutes I had to empty my bowels and had to sacrifice my sock. Currently walking back to the car, one ankle feeling very breezy, the other is nice and snug. Does a bear shoot in the woods? Most likely. Do I? Definitely. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ, and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. Dev, install the thing. Me, please forward your approval from the Architecture Council for the thing. Dev, yes we have approval. Me, okay. I need to see the email. Dev, I don't have the email. Me, okay, then give me the ticket number, and I'll go look at the status. Dev, why do you need the ticket number? We didn't have to give you that for the last project that installed the thing. Me, you gave me the email for that one. Dev, okay. The ticket number is 1234. Me, 1234 is currently still work in progress and says it's waiting for legal to sign off. Dev, so can we install it while we wait for legal? Me, no. And this is why I make them give me the freaking email. Currently writing this on my phone in the back room at work. Earlier in my shift I was in the middle of ringing up a customer. I went to grab her store credit from the drawer behind me, and when I turned back around my knee buckled and gave out and I fell. It hurt too much in the moment to get back up again. The customer I was ringing ran around to check on me and other customers grabbed the other two managers I was working with to help me. While I was sitting behind the register waiting for ice, customers were coming up to check on me and offer advice, and it was greatly appreciated. I'm now in the back icing my knee and trying to see if I can walk on it. Apparently while I've been back here customers have asked how I was doing. I'm in pain, but how nice and helpful the people around me were was great and I'm really appreciative. Not a super dramatic story, I just wanted to share that sometimes people can still be nice. On mobile, sorry for autocorrect and formatting mistakes. Also if this doesn't fit here, I'm sorry, it's the best sub I know of to post this story. Back in secondary school I was like the poster child of terrible student. I skipped class a lot, rarely paid any attention in class when I was there and almost never did my homework. The reason was that I already knew everything they were teaching and just got bored. The reason for being there is to learn, but if I'm not learning anything then what's the point? One day in 9th grade, I was in the counselor's office waiting to visit my counselor. The waiting room is connected to a conference room for staff meetings. As it happens my science teacher was in there speaking to the principal, both of whom loathe me. Teacher because I was failing her class and principal because I was constantly getting in trouble. On several occasions he politely suggested that I drop out of school, which I found hilarious because isn't his job to try and motivate me and get me to stay and pass? Anyway, the door to the meeting room was open so I could hear them. I was ignoring them, reading my book while I waited until I heard my name. The teacher said I need me removed from my class. He is incapable of learning the material. I don't know why she thinks that. I hadn't attended her class in over a month. I'm not incapable, I'm just not participating. I decided that the best course of action would be to prove her completely correct. I am in fact incapable of learning the material because I already know it. As a flip you to her for insulting my intelligence, I show up to her class the next day, sit front and center, raise my hand to every question she poses to the class and answer correctly, complete all the in-class assignments and homework given the day before the end of class bell rings, hand it in and never go back to her class for the remainder of the semester. Just a slight aside for anyone in a similar position to where I was, you should attend class, you should do the work and get the best grade you can get. I did end up dropping out after grade 10 and it has negatively affected my life. The college I am attending is nowhere near as good as where I could have been accepted had I finished secondary school with good grades, and frankly, it's embarrassing to have to put on job applications and government forms that grade 10 is my highest level of completed education. Stay in school, kids. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay. Tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room. You know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no. I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. COVID has people wilding. Our customer service is down and my line is one of the few that's open because we have a contract with a partner that they have a direct line to my department. Normally that's fine, but they give that number out like it's candy to customers that want general CS. In comes this customer, asking about his transaction history and how things don't add up. I used to be in CS and I know it's pointless telling these people they don't understand basic math and these calls always take 20+ minutes, and I was supposed to get off in 10, so I'm not sticking around for this, especially since it isn't my job to. See, you need to tell me where this money went, you can't just blow me off. I'm not blowing you off, sir, I want to direct you to our customer service because they are the ones that can help you figure out what happened here. You will need to log into your account to start a chat. See, I tried that 5 days ago, they never responded. Okay, I know they take like 2 hours or more to respond, but they do respond. Plus I can see if you have an open chat request and you don't, so someone responded or you didn't send one. I understand it's not convenient, but customer service has to help you with this, and they don't have a phone number right now for you to call. See, but I was just talking to customer service and they said I needed to talk to security. Sir, you were transferred from, partner, customer service. I'm sorry they misled you and said we could do this for you. You can contact our customer service, and that may take an hour or two to respond, but I promise they will be able to help you with this. I know, there I go promising him someone else would fix it, but I alluded to work that queue. It's easy to understand but a rough call to take, and a chat is only worse I imagine. But not allowed to take those calls anymore, not that I want to anyways. See, if you're not going to help me I'm calling the FTC. You are legally responsible for telling me where my money went. Dude, we've got multiple channels of contact for you, and we're not required to do that. No business is legally obligated to offer support unless it's under a warranty or in your contact. We don't have either of those, so go complain to the FTC, I'm done with you. We spent only a few more moments of me explaining I couldn't help him, and that he was free to go to chat for answers. He wasn't happy, but hey, I don't get surveys and I didn't do anything wrong aside from being direct, and my final response of phone service is not available for your request. You can go to chat or you can figure out your issue yourself. He wasn't excessively swearing at least, but the entitlement some people have. I'm amazed when I think about how our company doesn't have a customer service outside of North America, that people just figure things out themselves. I don't know what it is about softball moms and dads and their kids that makes me roll my eyes so far back in my head I can see my own brain. Perhaps it is their MAGA baseball caps and local sports mascot t-shirts, or the mom's poorly box-dyed highlighted hair, usually in a ponytail and complemented by a deep leathery tan. Or maybe it's the coach dads and their beer belly laugh that resonates through the entire hotel from the pool, which closed 3 hours ago, posted signage be darned, they just need a place to drink their booze. It can't be just the kids, who are direct clones of their moms, save for they usually have braces and less cellulite, and usually enjoy running through the halls unsupervised, screaming and chuckling at the top of their lungs and dodging security all night, until we get complaints of noise and have to ask them what room they are in, which they conveniently forget when asked. Are these things other experienced, or is it just our neck of the woods? Is this a thing? I have only been doing this a year and a half, but it's always the same people, different faces. BTW, I live in a large city on the northern part of Florida, so, maybe it's a southern thing? Edit. Also, I only say these things as jabs because they are usually also the most entitled, inattentive, rude Karen-esque people on earth. How do you spend all night drinking and complaining about our amenities, or lack thereof, while ignoring your kids and letting them run through the hotel like maniacs at all hours of the night causing problems for everyone else, then get angry at staff if they ask your precious angels to calm down? It's no surprise how my customers have been acting more irate, rude, and wanting to get inside for pretty much anything. Rumors are going around that our branches will open up around August, and I am not looking forward to it. People don't social distance and cluster our vestibule like sardines, and I know for a fact that they won't practice it once we open either. There's no way we can enforce social distancing on our customers without them making a scene, and God help us when we have to deal with the ones that don't have a mask on. Have any of you guys opened up yet? So I'm a host at a popular Mexican restaurant in my hometown. I've seen it all. Customers and ex-co-workers going on racist, xenophobic rants about management and other co-workers. Keeping my cool with impatient customers. A customer giving a server a good tip, and then coming back in and taking the tip because she mixed it up with her gas money. Getting fussed at by other servers because I sat them with someone they don't like. Etc. 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 While working during this pandemic, our restaurant goes by CDC guidelines. Tables have to be 6 feet apart. Employees must wear a mask, gloves, and have temperature taken. Maximum we can seat in a party is 6 people, but we can seat more than 6 if they are willing to split up and sit at a different table. The bar is closed. We use disposable plates and plastic silverware. The stupid really shows during this pandemic. I overheard an old lady asking the cashier, "When will things go back to normal?" To which she responded, "This is the new normal." The old lady replied, "I hope not." I made a party of 10 angry when I had to inform them the maximum we can sit is 6 whether it's family or not. The Karen in the party asked how are people supposed to have birthday dinner when the maximum you can sit is 6? I really wanted to respond with we're in the middle of a pandemic. You're not supposed to have a party. That was one of the many examples of parties treating me like the bad guy because due to party sizes. Now customers are asking me when we'll go back to using actual plates? Because they don't like eating out of to-go disposable ones. I don't understand why people can't give up personal inconveniences to protect the lives of others. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick, he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones, lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. Alright, so this didn't actually happen today, but I still remember it very clearly. So one day in English class, we had a substitute teacher. It was a pretty ordinary day, and I was just talking with my best friend as we did our work. This is where my mistake starts. The people in the class were just chatting as usual, maybe a bit louder than usual, actually, when suddenly I hear this loud noise coming from behind me. Now, anyone who knows me, knows that I absolutely despise this noise. So, of course, thinking it was a student trying to annoy me, I shout "No you!" without even turning around. The entire class went quiet. I realized something was wrong, so I turned around. For a moment, I didn't notice anything wrong, but then it hit me. The substitute teacher was quite short, and was wearing clothes that looked quite similar to my school's uniform. For some reason, he wasn't sitting at the teacher's desk, like substitute teachers normally did. He was instead sitting right behind me. My face went red as I realized I had just basically told a teacher to shut up. My best friend also realized what I had done, and her eyes widened with shock and fear. Luckily, the teacher wasn't too mad once I explained that it was an accident, and I thought he was another student. I didn't get a detention, but I definitely was embarrassed for a while after that. Needless to say, I don't shout "No you" at students, or teachers, anymore. Doctor, I screamed "No you" at the teacher, because I thought he was a student. I'll keep this short. The other day, my mom was watching a video on Facebook that had a rather annoying happy-ish music. I told her to lower the volume, and as I saw her very entertained I went to see what the video was about. There were a bunch of pictures of a little kid and it had some special effects that were a little too much, kinda like 6th grader PowerPoint presentation much. The conversation went something like this. Me, why does it have those effects? Lol, it's so cringy. Mom, don't criticize it, a little girl died and this is her memorial video. I stayed silent for a while and instead of just shutting up I decided to keep talking. Me, okay, but why does it have those effects and that cringy music? Mom, because the video was made by the little girl's best friend, she's 8 years old. Never gonna comment on her videos again lol. TL, Doctor, my mom was watching a little girl's memorial video and I made fun of it unintentionally. So I work at a small office for a construction company. I have one coworker that is a grandma and due to some parental issues, she is now taking care of her 2 youngest granddaughters, ages 7 and 8. She doesn't really have money so she can't pay for a babysitter to watch the girls as she's working her 8 to 5 job. There is also the issue of COVID-19 right now, so having a stranger come into your house for long periods of time and be around kids is not really a good idea. Luckily, for her, the boss is okay with the girls being in the office as long as they don't bother anyone from working and be quiet. Over the time, I've slowly went from being grandma's co-worker to being a babysitter. This is how it starts. The girls did that at first, until one of their tablets broke down and stopped working. Then, they would fight over the other tablet and would whine and tattle to the closest adult there, usually me. So to stop this I brought my tablet just so that they could watch Disney+. It worked, until my tablet ran out of power. Then, whoever had that tablet would start to come up to me and say I'm bored. They bring a backpack full of colors, coloring books, toys, etc. so I know that they aren't bored, they just want a tablet. I would then have to list off things for them to do, so that I could go back to work. After a while, I've learned how my coworker has been parenting them and when the girls do something, then I just follow what my coworker tells them to do. For example, the girls have a towel and toothbrushes and toothpaste in the girls' bathroom. They are told that they have to wash their face, hands, and teeth after eating lunch. The girls would try to get away with this and go straight back to the tablets after eating, so I would have to remind them as to subtly tell them that they can't disobey their grandma. Now, I just have to raise an eyebrow and they listen. I really was fed up with all of this, especially when my coworker and I would usually be the only ones in the office, but I didn't really say anything because I know that my coworker can't really do anything to keep them home and they are kids who need to be loud and run around and all that. But, I finally realized how much my coworker was taking advantage of me when she said, "Wow. You're the cheapest babysitter. All I have to do is just pay for your lunch." She not only said this straight to my face, but also in front of the girls who now believe that I am their babysitter. Now if there are any problems, from an untied shoe to a fight over who can get what, the girls go to me first before their grandma. I am 14. I am a certified referee in my state. I know the rules as I've played by them my whole life along with taking the officiating classes. At our park district, no headers for ages below 11. But in U12, it is up to the referee's discretion. So if it's a small tap it's okay. That is exactly what happens. So the coach behind me screams at the top of his lungs there are no headers in U12 5 to 16 times. I ignore him. Though I could eject him. It was last game of the season and I didn't care. After a bit of yelling, he says fine. Go duck yourself then which I turn and tell at him for saying in front of U11 kids. I wish I sent him away or ended the match. Sadly I didn't do much and my partner is a longtime referee, officiated my matches as I grew up, and he is deaf. So he has no idea what happened. The person who runs Park District in my area has been informed and is taking action. Happened a month or so ago, but due to Corona I hadn't been going outside much. I had just finished grad school and was really taking advantage of the time off before I started applying for jobs. I live at home with my parents so they've been doing the food shopping and picking up whatever we needed. I'm extremely grateful to them and do the chores inside the house so I'm not entirely useless. I was hanging out with my neighbors for the first time in a while and my parents urged me to go out for a walk with them. I agreed and we took my neighbor's dog for a walk in the park. Since we're all socially distancing, I was walking in the street while they were on the sidewalk. I had been looking at something on my phone and turned a bit to speak to my neighbors. In doing so, I didn't notice the pothole in front of me and tripped. For some reason, I didn't react in the slightest. Perhaps because I wasn't expecting it or perhaps I just had super slow reaction time. Anyways, I landed directly on my shoulder towards the end of the pothole. Struggling as I tried sitting up, I began to test and see what was damaged. I was able to wiggle all of my fingers and close my fist. My elbow was stiff and I couldn't move it much, but I thought it was just bruised. It was a bit closer to my body than usual, but I didn't think much of it. Overall, nothing major and everything seemed fine until I took a glance at my shoulder. That's when I noticed it was a few inches lower than normal and indented into my body. I went to move it and was greeted by an intense pain. I took a quick glance under my shirt and saw the bone was completely pushed inwards. By doing nothing when I fell, I landed on the shoulder and dislocated it. We immediately called my parents, who took me to the hospital. I then sat, with my shoulder dangling a few inches out of the socket for about an hour, before a doctor was able to see me and order x-rays. It was then another half an hour after those x-rays before they attempted to pop it back in. Unfortunately, since I was bigger than the doctor, she was unable to pull the arm fully out to relocate it. I then had to wait another 20 to 30 minutes with the process halfway completed, by myself, in some of the most pain I'd ever been in. By the time the PA had arrived, I was desperate and miserable. He was able to pop my shoulder back into place and the 2 doses of morphine began to kick in. I left after almost 3 hours in the hospital, during Corona mind you, with my arm in a sling and at least 6 weeks of physical therapy in my future. TLDR, by going for a walk with my neighbors and not watching where I was walking, I fell and dislocated my shoulder and had to go to the hospital during a pandemic. So I've got a 3-month-old son and my grandmother has been visiting for the last few days. She's been super helpful and I've loved having her here to help with my baby. Too bad she thinks her granddaughter is a weirdo who snacks on her own breast milk now. Anyways, the details. My grandma is the best but she's always nagging me to stop snacking so much as I'll spoil my lunch/dinner/whatever meal I'm about to eat. She always cooks for me when she visits, and I'll admit I used to be bad at ruining my appetite when I was younger, but I am a goddamn grown woman now and if I want to eat a snack, I'm going to eat a darn snack. Also she's not saying it in a weird controlling way, just in a grandma kind of way. I'm not over/underweight, I just really like snacks. Earlier this evening my grandmother knocked on my bedroom door and poked her head in to tell me dinner was ready. She saw that I was breastfeeding my son and I told her I would be down shortly after. In the meantime, I glanced over at my nightstand and saw a granola bar from earlier sitting there, tempting me. I knew I shouldn't but I was so hungry and my son had just started eating. I decided to go for it. It was one of those bars with a kind of glaze/frosting on the top and I quickly scarfed it down and hid the evidence in my son's diaper genie. 20 or so minutes later I stroll downstairs and begin chatting to her about random nonsense and she gives me a very weird look. I just ignore it and keep talking about said nonsense, making myself a plate. She then asks me if I've eaten anything recently, to which I lie and say no. She proceeds to give me an even weirder look. We sit down to eat and she kind of avoids eye contact with me for a few minutes until she makes an excuse about going to check on the baby even though the monitor shows him quietly sleeping. I'm too tired to figure out why she was being weird and just eat my dinner alone. When I'm finished I head back upstairs and walk in my bathroom and glance up at the mirror as I'm washing my hands. I gasp in horror. Don't you know a big chunk of the frosting of the granola bar has hardened on my bottom lip/chin, and instantly I knew, holy shoot, my grandma thought I was drinking my own breast milk. I'm embarrassed but it's too weird to say anything now. Hey grandma, just so you know that was not breast milk on my lip earlier. The worst part of the whole story is that the darn granola bar actually did spoil my appetite. Frown. TL, Doctor, I lied to my grandma about eating a granola bar before dinner and subsequently made her think the frosting on my face was dried breast milk. This happened to me in the 6th grade, now 31F. I hadn't thought about it in a long time but I remembered recently and decided to post. There was this girl in my class that would hang around with a couple of my friends but I didn't really consider her my friend. More like a friendly acquaintance. Anyways, we started off cool with each other then as the school year went on she started trying to start trouble with me for some reason. I have no idea why, to my knowledge I never did or said anything to her to stir up animosity. I remember one day after lunch, we were lined up to head back to our classroom and her, my friends, and I were standing there talking, joking around. She asked me, "Do you think this would hurt?" and made a fist with her knuckles sticking out in a weird way. I opened my mouth to answer but before I could, she punched me in the chest. Not a playful punch, but a hard punch. I didn't hit her back but I pushed her and called her a stupid idiot. My friends just kind of looked like they weren't really sure what just happened but none of us really talked to her much after that. Whenever I did come across her, she'd say things like "I'm gonna kick your ass" or "your ass is mine," stuff like that. I just told her whatever and that I wasn't scared of her, I was a lot bigger than her. So one day at recess, my friends and I were playing basketball and she came over and started trying to talk to all of us. She then pulled out a mechanical pencil from her hoodie and showed all of us that she had put a needle in it. The details on what lead up to it get a little fuzzy right here but I remember she poked my friend on the hand with it, made her bleed, and she poked another girl that was talking to us. Right after that the teacher called everyone to come inside, so as we all started walking she started acting like she was going to poke me with it. I told her she better not, and as I walked away she came up behind me and poked me in the back with it. I remember yelling "ow!" and I turned around and punched her in the chest and she stumbled back, but she didn't say or do anything else. By this point my friend had told the teacher and we were sent to the nurse's office to get cleaned up since she poked us with the same needle. Parents were called, she got suspended, and when she came back none of us talked to her again. After the school year was over I never saw her again until our high school graduation. There was a program our school had for troubled youth/teens at a different location that got to walk in the graduation ceremony with the rest of us. So I guess that's where she'd been. My mom knew who her parents were and told me she came from a bad family where she wasn't taken care of. Never saw her again after graduation. I hope she got the help she clearly needed. Obligatory first-time posting, on mobile etc. So I work in a popular UK supermarket, mainly as a home delivery operative but also helping customers with their queries/rants. In case you're unaware, we're currently in a time where supply chains are being hit and under a lot of pressure to keep our shelves stocked, and most customers understand this and are respectful when we say no, we're sorry but XYZ is out of stock at the moment. Not this customer though. I was in aisle 18, which is our home baking aisle, and a customer walks up to me and asks where our eggs are. We're out of stock, and I say as much, but she demands that I find her some eggs. I tell her that they arrive in the morning, and as she is shopping in the late afternoon then she is unlikely to find them. She goes off on a rant about how other supermarkets would still have them, and how she would like me to make some eggs appear for her. I sincerely asked her if I looked like a chicken, and she huffed off looking for a manager. Guess which side the manager was on? This happened about 5 years ago. Just started playing this game again and was reminded of this. I typically played on random and took whatever class they gave me on. I respawned as a sniper and went and found a nice spot to pick off some enemy. I am in a perfect position and almost immediately a team member drops right in front of me. I say something in team chat and then we are both killed by rocket. Few rounds later sniper again and I choose different spot. Few seconds later he does it again. Sometimes in this game if you are on top of someone or next to them it actually pushes them to the side. So my nice hidden spot is now me pushed out and seen and killed. Check, and this guy has no flags and lots of kills. All he does is camp and snipe. Fine. Revenge. Since the board only has a few snipe areas he is predictable. I go to every area he is every spawn and drop smoke grenades in front of him. Smoke lasts a good 30 seconds, a grenade with no visibility, so no sniping and you are a target for rockets. Now all of a sudden he wants to respond and ask me to stop. Nope. He gets angry and finally switches teams. Well, I guess he is known for doing this and the guys on the other team start smoking him as well. Even 5 years ago this game was older, so not a lot of quality servers, so switching to different server is not a great option. Did this every time he played. I assume he left or changed his name. But still to this day if someone drops in front of me with the same weapon I have. Enjoy the smoke. In my state, during this pandemic and the phase where we have reopened business to the public, it is still mandatory to wear masks when you are up and around from your tables. However, when you are sat at your table you are more than welcome to take the mask off. Not everyone is the same. So clearly there are people who feel safe in public when masks are worn. And there are people who think it is a violation of their rights. However, the state sets rules in place that we need to follow regardless of how much we agree or disagree with them. So our liquor licenses are at risk here. So last night in the middle of a very busy shift, we get guests who come in and refuse to wear their masks. They go off about how it's a violation of their rights. They are being very rude about it. We explain over and over again that it is mandatory and that we are not following it because it's a rule we made up, but because the state is making us do it. This couple is completely holding up the manager who is better needed elsewhere, and they will not be respectful of the rules we all need to follow. Not to mention that they only need to wear the masks for less than 120 seconds that it takes to greet and seat them, to which they can remove them. So how disrespectful. They would not let up. So the manager literally goes on the state website and pulls up the set of laws that is now required during this pandemic and phase of reopening, highlights the literal laws and brings it to them for them to read. She did not do this willingly, they made her. In the middle of a busy shift on a Sunday evening. The peak of the day. The point where we are all running around like chickens with no heads trying to compensate for the things that she can't be doing because she is busy entertaining some crazy entitled people who can't be bothered to wear a mask for 120 seconds. Anyways, After she brings them the paperwork, they are still going off on her. To which the owner comes out and finally says, because you choose not to wear a mask in my business and someone complains, you will cost me my liquor license. Or something along the lines of that. To which they finally shut up. Then they complained about their server. She said she wasn't attentive enough at the table. But hello, people? We are supposed to spend minimal amount of time at the table as possible. Do people not understand that the dynamics of dining out has completely changed? Also, does anyone else have similar stories of the general public not being able to simply grasp this concept? This Friday I was at work. It has been extremely busy since we were allowed to open again on June 1st. I'm in the Netherlands and our corona restrictions have been largely lifted. A table had just left and already 4 new people sat down before I had the chance to clean it. When I came to their table I told them I hadn't cleaned the table yet and started wiping the surface when one of the women said, "Oh yes, you should clean this table because we are all too dirty." She said it in an unpleasant tone while I of course cleaned the table because of the people who sat there before her. When I told her that, she spoke again and said you should clean the table because they were Turks. I was honestly shocked and I knew they could see it on my face because the 4 of them started laughing at me. Basically mocking me for judging them because of their blatant racism. They ordered a bottle of wine and I treated them politely but staying very distant. It really shook me up and ruined my evening and I wish I could have told them to flip off. Not me, but witnessed my bar manager go through this. Customer, excuse me, I've been waiting ages and you served everyone except me. Bar manager, I'm sorry love, what do you want? C, I'm not your love. Stares. BM, I'm sorry, can I get you anything? C, I think it's awful how you ignore customers who have been waiting for so long. BM, I didn't realize you had been waiting so long, what can I get you? C, well, I think this is awful, 5 people must have come after me and been served. BM, I apologize again, I'll get you your drinks now, what would you like? C, for free? BM, sorry, I can't do them for free. C, why not? I've had to wait for so long, it's the least you can do. BM, I don't think it works like that, do you want any drinks or not? C, of course I do, why do you think I was waiting at the bar? But I don't think I should have to pay. BM, you can either buy a drink or stand away from the bar, I'm afraid, that's all we can offer. C, fine. But I don't want you to serve me. BM, why not? C, because you're incompetent, you don't know what you're doing. BM, well everyone else here didn't serve you fast enough either, what difference does it make who pours your drinks? C, well I've just said, anyone but you. Now get somebody else. BM, well, the other staff are busy mixing drinks, so you'll have to wait if you want them. C, are you kidding? Flip you. BM, flip me? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Commence ranting and shouting followed by the bouncer escorting her out. This is a story from way back probably 15 years ago when I was a small child. But I remembered it and thought you would all enjoy. TDLR at the bottom. So when I was a kid my parents used to have this teen who lived down the street babysit us. And for whatever reason I just hated her. She babysat us pretty often and the more she did, the more annoyed I got. She did nothing wrong so my parents didn't listen to me when I said I didn't like her. Finally I got fed up and decided to get her fired. I hatched a plan. My parents had small bottles of a kind of obscure alcoholic beverage in our fridge and I figured my babysitter, being only like 16-17, wouldn't know what it was. So I took a bottle, opened it and dumped half of it down the sink drain, and then placed it on the table next to where she was sitting. She of course didn't think anything of it. Once my parents got home they paid her, said goodbye and started to herd my brother and I upstairs. Then my mom noticed the alcohol sitting in the table. She asked why it was there and I told her the babysitter had been drinking it. She immediately was upset and went to call my babysitter's mom. After a long talk on the phone and my mom getting very angry that the babysitter was possibly drinking while watching my brother and I eventually admitted what I was done because I didn't want my babysitter to get in an insane amount of trouble. But after that day they never hired her back so in the end I got what I wanted. Man what a terrible child I was haha. TDLR, I hated my babysitter so I hatched a plan that made it look like she was drinking in the job to get her fired. When I was 17 I used to deliver for a well-known pizza place in the area. Of course Fridays were always insane and this Friday was supposedly going to be the biggest. Halfway through the night I got a deliver to a home for a specialty pie with 5 toppings. The bill came out to $35. Pizza was deep dish when given toppings, so the price was always jacked up, and was hopping for another good tip to bring my night to about $50. As I'm walking up to the door I can hear them trying to shush their dog. Usually whenever this were to happen it was common courtesy for the customer to come outside to avoid any issues with their dog. Well, they open the door and their 100-pound husky comes bolting out, jumps, bites my arm and then attacks the pizza. Luckily I was okay and very disoriented from the whole situation and wasn't sure what to do since the pizza was all over their front steps. They freaked out and continuously apologized. They informed me that they would call the store and order a new pie and pay for both and tip me extra. However, they sent me on my way without ever paying me. My 17-year-old mind was still messed up from getting attacked by their dog. Getting back to the store I find out they never called and we couldn't find their phone number to contact them. Got bit by their dog and ended up not making anything after it all.